Alright. Time to start working on the script for Walter and Ross 4. How to write it though.
Oh my god, you did it!
Hey man!
You did it!
Didn't.
You thought you could do it? You thought you could do it? You really thought you could do it, huh? Huh? But I caught you. Right in the act! Right in the act!
No, it was gonna be like an April Fool's kind of thing with Walter and Ross 4. No, you've seen Walter and Ross, right?
I thought this was a podcast.
Oh, am I?
I thought you were doing a podcast without me.
Oh yeah, no, I am being recorded.
Huh. So you were doing it without me?
No. This was gonna be like a behind-the-scenes kind of idea. Sorry if I caused any confusion for you.
You know what? Let's just get this started.
When just the bit is just going. So, okay. Look, I would never do a podcast without you, without the times that I did the podcast without you. No. Alright, so, does this mean I'm arrested, or... Are you even a real detective?
Yes, I am actually.
Show me your badge.
Right now, you want to show me my badge?
Show me your badge. That's a Wendy's gift card. Sorry, wait, no. You got a Chick-fil-A one?
Give me a sec. Oh yeah, I do actually.
Alright. Be our guest, your choice, our treat. Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich, grilled chicken sandwich, spicy chicken sandwich, and Chick-fil-A nugs. I'll take the nugs.
So that proves.
You want to go get Chick-fil-A after this?
We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it.
Alright.
Alright, so hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Knives Out. Not that our opening bit really had anything to do. We should have done something with knives.
Really should have.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. But either way, for people who don't know really anything about this film, it came out last year, and I personally knew nothing about it. Did you know anything before going into it?
I just heard it's a good movie, and I heard it was like a murder mystery. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes, I remember they kept throwing this commercial out there of like 100%, 97%, which I think right now...
It's not that. I think it's...
97%.
Yeah.
On Rotten Tomatoes, it's certified fresh, and then audiences are giving it a 92. Knives Out sharpens old murder mystery tropes with a keenly assembled suspense, outing that makes a brilliant use of writer-director Rian Johnson's stellar ensemble.
Now, let me just say, I have mixed feelings about Rian Johnson, but this movie...
I've never heard any other films from him. What else did he do?
I don't know if you heard of Star Wars Episode 8, The Last
yeah.
Jedi. He did that. But this film was definitely one of his better ones.
Yeah, I mean, he won I'm just reading his Wikipedia, which, as we all know, is full fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And the murder mystery Knives Out 2019, the last of which was nominated for the Golden Globe Award for Best Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. So, I mean, it got a nomination, which was pretty good. He started in 1995 making films, so he's only 46.
He has a lot of time. Mm-hmm.
And he's already done Star Wars. Which we'll talk about that film if we get there.
Probably never. Anyway.
Probably never. But yeah, this film came out November 27th, 2019 in the United States. It had a budget of $40 million and it received a box office of $309.2 million.
So it really succeeded.
It failed miserably. Oh, terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it didn't even get
Close.
10... No, I mean, not even 10 times its plot. So, I have seen it, but you haven't. With there's a film called Clue. Which is based off of the board game Clue by that one board game company.
No way, really?
Yeah,
actually.
right?
What? Shocking.
Right. But no, for people who have seen that film, this is very similar to that, only it's much more mature. I'll show you Clue one day. It's just slapstick. That's all it is. But without further ado, Anthony, you want to do your spiel on who's in the film?
All right. So first we have to start off with the greatest, not the greatest, but one of the best actors around, Chris Evans, aka Steve Rogers, aka Captain America. And let me just say, spoiler warning, by the way, of course, just telling you now, he's the villain. We're just gonna spoil that right now. And of course, someone I really loved was Daniel Craig, who was playing the detective.
Daniel Craig did a really good job in this film.
And there's also Catherine Langford who plays what's her name, Hannah Baker from 13 Reasons Why.
Oh
She
yeah.
was okay, in my opinion. Wasn't the greatest, person, but Anna de Armas, I think it's called. I think that's one. Plays the.
I don't know. You want me to pronounce
Yeah,
that?
if you want, here you go.
Where Jamie Lee Curtis. That's an easy name. Ana de Armas.
Yeah, you see.
She plays Marta.
Yeah. Like
For
the nurse for
the main character of the film.
yeah.
Besides from Daniel Craig. Detective Craig.
Detective Craig.
But yeah, I mean, there's like tons of people in this film. Way more, but like it's very much an all-star cast kind of formula of Hollywood going, oh, if we get everyone that's really famous into the film, then it'll be good. Which sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Do you think in this film it did?
It definitely worked. The actors all did their roles pretty well. And like everywhere, the way the film was played was very good. It was I enjoyed it a lot.
Do you think if the film had like unknown actors, like people who had like this is like they may have been in other films, but they just showed up on this one, do you think the film would still be as good?
If it was, I think it honestly could have been, but I don't feel like it all really depends on the acting, how good the acting is, and who you really get for your acting roles. But I feel like for the cast that they brought, it was definitely a good cast, and it worked for this film.
I mean Daniel Craig. I mean it's Daniel. We're on a first name basis here. So without any further ado, we open up on kind of a quiet opening with Harry Thrombey dead, with a slit throat, on his 85th birthday in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
I want everyone to take a minute to just realize that that's something that happens in the film.
Yeah, the very beginning opening, and you know who finds him? The maid.
Fran. Fran's the housekeeper?
Yeah, Fran.
And then that's when the opening kind of credits happen. Everyone's coming to the house, which is very much like Clue. And the police are all saying that it's suicide. It has to be, like, there's no other way. But they get private detective Bennett Blanc to investigate, who when I read the name, I thought he was French. Which was, like, I was imagining going, oh, oui,
no.
Mon sweet.
He's pure on...
Murder!
He's pure on Southern.
Mm-hmm. He's like, howdy, y'all. That be a dead body right over there. And he doesn't really talk in the beginning.
No, he doesn't. And, it was very interesting. It's really interesting because if you look at the film, he moves exactly the same time. He plays the piano, exact same key at the exact same time. And then all of a sudden they notice him and he does the exact same movements and asks the exact same questions.
Yeah. Which I like that little opening bit with, and you're right, this is like, I guess you would call it almost like a study kind of room, which for anyone who's seen the promotional material, they don't have it in the theatrical poster. But in most of the trailers, or if you just type in Knives Out, you're going to see a big circle with the knives. I remember seeing that somewhere everywhere. For
this movie, like in particular, you do have to pay attention to like what's going on.
Like,
you have to like if you want to try to solve like the mystery before the film does it for you, you have to pay attention to what's really going on.
Yeah, so it is very much like you are also the detective in this whole kind of thing, which does add to the like I know in video game terms people say like, oh, it has a lot of replay value. This would have a rewatch value, I guess.
I mean, for me, like personally, I don't think you can. Like for me, after watching it once, I don't know if I could rewatch it by myself. I'd have to rewatch with someone who doesn't know what the film is going on.
That's true.
Because I feel like the whole film is kind of ruined with you knowing what's going to happen, what actually is happening here. You know.
You know who would be fun to watch this film would be for people who have watched our Detective Pikachu or listened to our Detective Pikachu podcast, David would probably love this film because he likes all the detective stuff. But yeah, so we kind of in this opening bit start to learn more about like who these characters are, what their personalities all are, and then we see that there was like a little bit of a party last night, which whole bunch of stuff happens. For like that what took up maybe 30 minutes of the film.
Yeah, honestly, like it was the film was moving on pretty quickly. Like it was a pretty quick film, and the way it moved and all that. Like I don't know how to explain. Like it's just a quick film.
Yeah, it's 2 hours and 10 minutes, which is like a decently long film. But it's because it's always like something else is happening, and you're like, oh, you're rooting for the main character, or you're rooting for this guy.
Nope. But I mean, like in 2 hours and 10 minutes, you think like it could be dragged out like that. It wasn't dragged out. It didn't feel like it was. The movie didn't feel like it was getting dragged out. It felt like it was moving on, like the pace.
Yeah.
Was moving on. And so yeah, for 30 minutes, you have like all the characters are getting questioned. The only person who isn't there was Ransom. He was the only.
We'll get to him eventually. He shows up about an hour in.
Yeah, he was the only character who wasn't there for to be questioned. And by the way, in the very beginning, we also find out that Marta is actually like she cannot tell a lie. She physically cannot tell a lie.
Yeah, she throws up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which is, I don't know if that's an actual thing.
I think that might be. I'm not sure.
I've never been thrown up on because someone else lied.
So she's basically a lie detector. It's really like hard for her to tell a lie, and but you'll see times where like she'll tell a lie, but like she has to go to the bathroom straight after. Like she has to hide it so hard, and then she goes straight to the bathroom and throws up and stuff like that. So it's not possible for her to lie. It's just it's really hard.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she does try to like contain it. But later on, while they're talking about the party, going back for a second, they're all like, it's like, oh, it's you. Oh, it was you. And in my mind, I'm like trying to put together this story because I'm like, oh, like at first I thought it was Walt. Because I'm like, oh, he has like the only like motive, quote unquote, to actually do something.
For me, like I kind of like started figuring it out slowly what was going on and all of that, but I was like, I don't think it's Marta. The way I thought is like I thought it was technically suicide, but it was someone that forced him to commit the suicide, and that's why. And technically, that was correct in a sense.
And we'll get there.
In a sense, that was correct.
That in a sense, yeah, in a long roundabout way. So there's like this back and forth between everyone going like Walt's like, oh well, he fired me from my publication job, and then there was the father tried to expose Richard for cheating on his wife, and he's like, you tell her or I will, and it was like, oh okay, so what a lovely family.
So yeah, we ended up finding out their family's like very weird. Like the father has basically put them like he's under their business, like over his business, and he decided he wants to really make like not amends, I guess. It's more like he wants them to earn the right. Like he doesn't want to keep giving them, money and stuff like that. And like so he explains in the film like he feels like he was always trying to like put them below him, his family, like he never wanted them to reach his point, and he realized his wrong and he wanted to try to help them for them to create their own way, in life.
Yeah, he wants them to build up their own life, kind of idea.
And so that's why he was doing all this stuff. For example, his son, if I don't quite remember,
Richard.
Yeah, I think it was Richard.
Who, the publishing company?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Walt.
Yeah, Walt. My bad. So Walt, for example, Walt was like he owned the publishing rights and all those books, like in films, all that. He wanted to create films with his books, but the father said no, and so the father was like, I've put too much on you, and I need to let this go for you because you need to create your own thing. And so he took away that, and that can be seen as a motive of why he would want to do something. At the same time, we had one of my least favorite characters was Joni.
Joni? Who's Joni?
She was the very blonde kind of.
Oh, she seemed like they were trying to shoehorn her in.
Yeah.
Especially when she's like, I own a soap company, and it's like, oh, I don't care.
Yeah, so for example,
nothing.
She ends up taking. So for example, the father is paying for Meg's college, which apparently is expensive. He was paying $100,000 a year for her to go to college.
Yeah, which
is insane.
Yeah, that's pretty outrageous. Hold on, how much Harvard tuition? Yeah, Harvard is $50,000.
Yeah, and
per year, which is still a lot. But yeah, like Yale is $53,000, Stanford is $51,000.
It's insane.
That's a lot.
But for example, she apparently was taking money, and so like I think it was, I don't remember if it was 100,000 or if he was getting 50,000, but I think it was 100,000 if I remember. And so she was taking actually 200,000 from him, and so like she would keep 100, so she would take 100,000 for her and give 100,000 to Meg, and like he found that out and said, "This is gonna be the last paycheck I give you. You're gonna have to survive on your own after this and stuff like that." And
do you think that was a good move on his part?
I think honestly,
because I did.
It is. It's something where it's like she needs to learn her lesson. She can't just keep taking money, all this and that. She needs to learn something.
Mm-hmm.
This is something. She has her own business, for crying out loud. She can make her money, the profits. So it's like, end of the day, this is something that has to be done because she needs to learn her lesson. And like, she was like, I can't afford your college. There's a thing called, I mean, I understand, like, for example, I wouldn't want a loan, but for example, she hasn't taken a loan for 5 years. Meg can officially afford a loan. She can at least take one loan. So when she's like, I can't afford your college, you can legit, for $50,000, that's actually, like, for, like, I mean, that's still a crazy loan, you know, big loan. But at the end of the day, it's better than paying $50,000 every year. So at the end of the day, Meg could have paid it for, you know, through the loan. But again, that's a reason Joni would have to go for, you know, her father. And we have Richard, of course, who could go because, you know, he could be, you know, convicted of, cheating.
Yeah. And it seemed like the father was taking two different approaches. With Walt, it's like, you need to go out there and make something of your life. And then with Richard, it's like, you darn jerk! You tell her I will. Like, there are two very different aspects. But what we do figure out is that the person we follow throughout the rest of the film, Marta Cabrera.
Marta Cabrera.
Okay, good. Was essentially the nurse of the father in the whole film. And she accidentally overdosed him with 100 milligrams of morphine, which she does say it was supposed to only be 3.
And she's named also. But also, before we go there, I want to say something. Like, throughout the whole film, like, you're trying to figure out who it is, and it could be anyone. The only person who honestly felt innocent was Linda.
Linda? Who is Linda?
Linda was the one with the letters. Richard's wife.
Yeah. She seemed like nothing really would happen.
All right, so now, moving on.
So, he's overdosed with 100 milligrams of morphine, meaning that he only has 10 minutes to live. So he goes, okay, here's my plan that I'm spitballing, which was one thing that I was like, I don't quite... He's
a smart dude. He built his empire.
I can grab at straws in a lot of films. This one was way out there. It's like, okay, first you gotta drive out the gate, say you're leaving, draw attention to time, then drive past the elephant, which she doesn't do, and then park the car.
She drove past the elephant. Remember, she was not.
She drove before. Yeah.
No, you're supposed to drive before, not past.
No, you're supposed to drive after.
After.
Yeah, so
I remember because I remember it kept switching. Remember?
No, it did keep switching, but then when they got to the VCR thing,
Okay.
So, and then hop the fence, climb up the building, wear his coat, walk down.
Yeah, enter the secret window that's up there that everyone can see where that is. Climb up that window, open that, get it closed, go downstairs. This will tell, what's his name, Walt? That he's coming down, and he'll say, go back up. So she goes back up, climb back down, make sure no one sees you. Bum, bum, bum. The grandma sees you. But this is a detail a very important detail. She says, grandson, you're back.
Ba, ba, ba.
Of course, when I was first watching, I didn't pay attention to that detail.
I was like, she's old.
That detail, I was like, yeah, she's old, whatever. So, yeah.
Which the grandson is Ransom. Technically, she got away with it. And this is when I checked the time in the film to see that it's only been 40 minutes in. It was like,
wow, there's a lot to go. No, I did tell. I was like, wow, that's exactly how it went. I wonder how she's going to keep it. So then, the detective decides that, you know what, he's going to take Marta as his Watson. So, because again, she can't tell a lie, and she has nothing to gain from this, right? So, she takes as Watson, and he's looking around, and as he's looking around, the dog ends up bringing the thing. So when she was climbing, she ended up hitting one of the wooden structures things down, and it ended up going down. And one of the dogs brought that to her. So quickly she grabs it and throws it. The wood.
No, I know you were just in your zone, so I was just letting you go.
But also, I think before this, they were going to watch the video to see what happened at night. And she quickly, she made it to where it's she ejected right as before everything's about to show. And she demagnetized the video, so everything's corrupt now. She took a magnet, I don't know if you know, if you take a magnet and put it on a video player, it demagnetizes the video and stuff like that, makes everything corrupt.
Which I've used a VCR before. Have you?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know if this is a thing. Maybe I'm just remembering it wrong. I just had to hit the fast forward button, not play and fast forward.
Well, maybe it's a different VCR. It's a different time period.
Nah. No, I know.
I know,
VCR.
you're VCR.
No, but no, yeah. So she does manage to take the tape, and I guess at this point the cops are like, oh, yeah, she's chill. We can trust her. And she does demagnetize it, but she also does another thing when they're walking.
Oh yeah. The footprint.
Yeah, the detective goes like, looky here. I don't know why he's turning old, but it's like, would you look at these footprints in the
over here in the
look at
grass.
them in the
And
mud.
she's like, Marta, stop! Don't walk! And she kept walking, and she walked forward to like hide the footprints.
Yeah, and then the dogs helped. And I was like, good puppy.
Okay,
You're helping a murderer.
And so after that, they end up going. Oh wait, did we talk about what the father did?
What did the father do?
I
Oh,
don't think we finished the story.
no.
Okay, so before this, they were also playing a game of Go, right? Before, because like I don't know if you guys know what the game of Go. It's a game with stones that you play. Like it's hard to explain. You guys can look it up if you want to.
Yeah,
So
you tried explaining it to me.
They're playing a game of Go. I was legit looking. I was like, no way, they're actually playing Go.
Yeah, I was like, Anthony loves
okay,
it.
cool. So yeah, so they were playing Go, and like Martha ended up winning, and that's it's actually important for later as well. But he flips the board and all that, and that's when the thing happens, and that's when he's coming up with this elaborate plan. And then like right as she finishes the plan, right as she finishes the plan, he takes the knife and he cuts his own throat.
Which they show, and I thought, like, okay, all right.
So we we know what went happen. Okay, now continuing on with the plan, right? So we end up getting to the part where they end up the person with the will comes in. I forgot what it is.
Harlan.
Yeah, and we find out he did a last.
Or no, sorry, that's
No.
That's Harlan Thrombey. This lawyer guy comes in,
Yeah,
and he's like, "I got a will, and I'm gonna read it to you."
that was changed. It was changed in a week, apparently, right?
Somewhere
So
on there.
all of a sudden, we find out everything he owns. Like, I mean, oh, by the way, this is when Ransom comes in. By the way,
Yeah,
So-
Ransom comes in specifically for the will.
yeah,
Okay,
people
well,
hate him.
Now, yeah, let's talk about Ransom for a second. He seemed like he was pulled out of like the kind of 50s films where like they're like Chicagoan kind of accent and all that. Did you like his like not like in like would you hang out with this guy, but like as just a character in the film? Did you like
I
him?
enjoyed watching him.
Would you hang out with him?
No, I would not.
Yeah, he's like that character that's like, I know him. He's a chill guy. I would never.
Everyone hate his whole family. Even his parents seem to hate him.
Yeah.
Like, dang, I feel like
Well, his parents were more or less just kind of like, we don't know if we would hang out with him either. You talk about the will because I think there's something.
they talk about the Willows, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, you talk about the will because I'm looking something up.
The will, right? So they ended up doing the will, right? And in reading the will, you know what he happens? All of a sudden, everything he owns goes to Martha. And they're all shocked, like, "Oh my gosh, this is not possible!" And they all go to her like, "You have to change this. You can't do this. You're basically stealing from us." Stuff like that. And they're acting like it's their. It's like his money was their money, right? So that's not right, by the way, either. So. She ends up getting really like over emotional, and who's laughing? Ransom is laughing like really loud and leaves. And so she tries to go in the car, and they're all saying, you gotta do something, you gotta give us, the money, all this, blah blah blah. And then she ends up, Ransom comes next to her and says, get in his car. So she leaves, gets in his car, and they drive off. And so Ransom does the smart move, right? They go and eat somewhere, right? And he buys her a bowl of chili, and is like, okay, so tell me why this happened. And he's like, you can't lie to me. I just bought you a whole bowl of chili.
Yeah. Which I thought was like, that's kind of clever. And they even get like an empty bowl.
So she sits there, tells him everything that happened. And he sits there and is like, I want to help you. But only if you give me my part of the, money.
Which, fair. He's essentially said, I'm trying to look up because
Oh, yeah.
There's a law called something. I don't know if they talked about it in the film.
They did talk about it in the film.
They did? Okay, so for people who don't know, there's a law that if you think that you should be included in a will, like as a family member, you can sue someone to be involved in that will.
Well, actually, I don't. and they did not talk about that, but they talked about the law. So one of the laws they talked about was, they talked about like how do we get her out? Can we sue her? And they said no, you can't sue her because as long as he was in his proper mindset, it can't be taken off. He can't be taken, which they can't prove that he wasn't in his proper mind. So that doesn't work as evidence because they say that the court will just laugh at them and they'll lose the case automatically. There was something else I forgot what it was.
Yeah, there's something about like, oh, what if someone murdered him and then
they're
like, well, it's a suicide.
Yeah.
So
that doesn't work either. So, all right, so everything gets left on to Martha. And by the way, that kind of makes it, a little more suspicious on her who the murderer possibly could be.
Mm-hmm.
But
and they're like, oh, it's spooky.
She tells Ransom everything. And so they come up with a plan. She ends up going to a home, right? And the reason, so her mother's not legal here. It's not legal in the U.S. And that was a kind of a, they did talk about politics in film. And that was one of the politics they talked about was legalization and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I won't go into detail. But they end up...
this is a film podcast, not a politics.
They end up having Meg end up calling her. Or I was like, can you help us, all that? And Meg was basically forced. She kind of got like forced to call her and, say these things to her. Like, yeah, you need to give us the money.
Like blackmailing him in a roundabout way. Or blackmailing her.
Yeah, and like, you need to give us the money and stuff like that. And so they end up leaving her. And then all of a sudden, Walt comes to her house. And it's like, this, blah, 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 blah. And she gets a whole bunch of letters, by the way. But but Walt was basically talking to her. And was looking like he's about to kill her in a sense, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like coming in, and she also gets this letter where it's like, meet at this address. I think it was address 10:00 or something.
Yeah.
No. It said I know what you did, and it had like his blood stuff. So like if it was found,
toxology.
Yeah. So they would find out that he died by not morphine. What is it called? Meth and what did I forget it was. So she goes to ransom, and they end up talking. It's like, you need to get this thing and burn it. What are you laughing?
What do you call an alligator that's also a detective?
What?
An investigator. Sorry. I was thinking of pun. So anyway, I just looked that one up. But yeah, so they get the toxology report and they're like, oh, but like, what are we going to do? I know, let's go to the medical office.
Well, then they get the toxology report, they get a picture with the toxology report. This is
right, and that has the logo of the facility. So they're like, okay, let's go there. It's on fire, which, okay, when I first saw that scene, I thought they meant that like those two burnt it down. So I was like, I think we missed something real quick. But no, they show up and they're like, okay, everything's on fire, so we need to go do something because it was destroyed by arson.
So she was trying to figure out what to do, and Ransom said, check your emails. And so she checks her emails and finds out this message that she's supposed to meet this person at 10:00 in this building. Mm-hmm. And so she ends up going, and guess what? She decides that the detective sees her, and he turns around, and then she goes, woo, woo, woo. And so now it's a chase scene with the detective chasing her down. So they end up, guess what? So she ends up getting away. Said she did not. She ends up not getting away. The detective ends up catching up to her, and so they end up taking Ransom into custody.
I also love that one of the cops came out and went, that car chase was pathetic. I was like, yeah, but it's a detective.
Okay, so yeah, they take Ransom into jail, and so now it's Maria's turn just to go meet up with her, right? So Maria ends up going into ends up going with the detective next to her. They end up driving. And she's like, I need to stop at this building real quick. Just gotta pick something up. So she parks. The detective stays there, and then she goes in the back of the building, ends up moving forward. And you know who she finds?
A friend!
And she looks pale as heck. And she's like, you did this. And so she's like there, and she's like, looks back, and gosh darn it, Maria was like, I can't let you die. And so she, instead of just letting her die and being able to live off, all this, she ends up she calls the cops.
She calls 911. Yeah. Fran is on the death.
Yeah. So and the friends end up goes to the hospital, and also Fran also told her where the thing was, the
toxicology
report. So they end up going, and they end up saving Fran, and then she tells the detective everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And the detective, instead of being like I don't know how to say,
he seemed pretty chill about it.
He was very chill.
He was just like, yep. Mm-hmm. Not like, you did this! It's just,
yeah. It's like you think like he probably felt bad for her because like she didn't mean for this to happen.
Yeah, but, which in other films, if this kind of thing happened, it would almost be like, oh, I thought I could trust you, and they walk away. No, this one, he sticks around, kind of keeps going, and they're like, I think we should probably tell your family.
Tell the family. No, he said not to, but she kept insisting, I'm going to do it. So she ends up going back to the house, and they find the report, right? And it's where the stash is, the stash of weed.
The Mary Jane, if you will.
The Mary Jane, if you will, yeah. So she hid it in the stash, right? And so she takes it, and she gives it to the detective, and it's like, okay, get the family ready. I'm ready to tell them. Meg comes in and is like, oh, yeah, I'm so sorry for telling that. And in my mind, I'm like, dang, in a second, she won't be sorry.
Yeah, I'm just like... It's just like, you're not.
So then the detective takes the report, and as about she says something, he looks at the report and says, Stop! You guys don't deserve the money. All this, blah, blah, blah. She deserves it, blah, 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 because she's a nice person, stuff like that. And then they walk away. I'm sitting there like, yeah, this movie does have a lot left, so something has to be going on.
I keep looking at the time going, like, there's still more, not in a bad way, but just like, it's still going. Okay, we got another 30 minutes. Cool.
That means there's no way this movie can end here. So then guess what? We end up seeing Ranson. I think he's just sitting there. And
no, because then the detective keeps going like there's a donut hole, but in the donut hole there's a smaller donut hole.
Just before that, like we see Ransom sitting, and that's when they both walk in with Ransom sitting there.
Yeah.
And so he takes the report. And she's like, what are you doing? You know, all this. She's like, but yeah, like in the donut hole, there's a smaller donut hole, but there's a hole.
Yeah, and everyone's like, what are you talking about? And I'm over here like, I no idea what you're talking about, man, but you keep going.
And he starts to explain. He's like, he starts explaining, you see, he wasn't intoxicated. You know, he was on meth. And so then we find out that it was actually...
Wait, over this part of the podcast, do you want me to put in like some dramatic detective music while you talk about what happened?
I guess.
Right.
Sure, why not?
All right, so start
it depends how epic it is. We'll see.
We'll see if I'll match the music to your story. So, all right. So he walks in and he's like, how do you know I did it?
And so it begins. So we ended up finding out what. So he basically figured out what I forgot to mention, they were in a room. Ransom and his grandfather were in the room, and he said some words to him, and we find out what he was actually saying. We find out, he's getting mad at the father because the father basically told him everything's going to go to Marta. Everything's going to Marta, and he gets pissed. And he starts to like, you'll regret this, and then he walks out, right? He ends up going in and doing exactly what Marta did, except he does it in a more correct way. Parks the car, ends up going all the way up, and he ends up switching the bottles of the meth and the other thing. And so then he goes back and walks down and leaves, right? So she comes up, does her thing, takes the bottle. And here's the thing, right? We find out that, and he's like, but you thought you were doing the right thing. But no, you're a good nurse. You were able to tell, you did it over 100 different times. So instead of like, how she like, cause she put the meth instead, right? In the end, she put the right stuff because she knew exactly how it looked, how much the fluid is and stuff like that. We find out that because of her experience, she actually did not give him the wrong medicine. Yay. So it was actually suicide that caused he actually killed himself. Oh. It wasn't her fault. And so basically everything she did was correct. All the stuff she did was correct. And then he was like, but then he found out, he didn't die from meth. He just slit his throat. So then when they were at the funeral, he goes upstairs, takes the bag, and takes away the evidence, and stuff like that. So they can't test the meth and stuff like that.
Yeah, but then who finds him?
So the person Oh yeah, and then when before that, when he was going up and came back down, guess who saw him? The grandmother.
Oh.
And that's why. And so when Martha went up and came down, the reason she said, "Grandson, is that you again?" Because she saw the grandson in the first one, in the first time she went up.
Yep.
Yeah. And so then he takes the bag, and takes everything. And then, Fran found out. Fran was actually in there and she found out. And so she did the message. She sent him a message except to meet him at a different time, same building. And when he met her, he ends up taking the thing and gives her the meth stuff. And if you think about it, she should be dead. I'm pretty sure it was past 10 minutes. Fran,
yeah.
But anyways, we'll continue on.
We'll go on.
So, yeah, the bag, we end up seeing, he leaves the bag there and all that. And so, basically, his whole plan was to go with Martha, and he would have burnt to find out where the thing, and he would have burnt the thing. But because he got in custody, everything got stopped. Basically, his whole plan got destroyed because he got into custody. So, because of that car chase scene is the reason that everything was able to work in the plan. And so, his sister was like, well, you still really can't prove anything, especially like if Fran's dead, because at that point he believes Fran is dead, and so the hospital calls her, and she picks up the phone. And he's like, He's like, yeah, Fran's alive, and then he sits there like. And then he sits there and he ends up saying, saying that he was trying to kill Fran, and grandson. And then after that, because that was revealed, she ends up throwing up, and then you find out, oh my, she was lying. Fran's actually dead, and she lied to make him, commit to make him say that he committed, murder. Mm-hmm. And so basically, he's like, oh shoot, and he takes a knife from one of the things, goes to Martha, stabs her,
slow motion,
and we find out it's one of those fake knives that go in and out. He's like, oh. Shoot. And then the cops come and tackle him right there.
Yeah, doesn't he say like, dang it.
Yeah. And so then he goes to jail, and then at the very end we see Martha sipping at her cup at her new house. And the whole family looking up at her. Oh, by the way, and before this, we see Linda. She takes the letter that was had nothing on it. It was a blank letter. And we find out that the way they had this game where Linda and the father were sending messages to each other, but the way it was in invisible ink, and the only way to reveal it was to burn the back of the letter. So she would take a lighter and she burned it. This is.
Do we know what it says?
Well, I'm pretty sure it says that. Guess what? Your husband cheated on you.
Guess what? You're never gonna believe it.
So yeah, and then we get at the end of the film where everyone's looking up at her, and then the detective, and then she asked, the detective, should I help this family? She's like, I don't know, but you're kind. And so he left, and then we see her sleeping on her cup, and they're all looking at her, and the movie ends.
I just want to say, without Walter and Ross, I don't think this film would have been the same. No, okay, so I know a lot of people are probably thinking right now, they skipped a lot.
Here's so the thing. Much to say.
There's so much, and if we were going to keep talking about this film, this would almost be longer than the film.
Yeah.
But there's also characters that I don't felt like they really fit anywhere. I didn't I don't remember this kid's name. The kid that they kept calling a Nazi.
Yeah, apparently he's a Nazi.
Yeah, which I'm like, okay, we're gonna go with this. Mm-hmm. Is it a joke on something, or is it? Because if it is, that's weird. Mm-hmm. But it was he was there for one clue point, but it could have been anyone.
It was the clue point of Ransom when he was talking to the grandfather, which I don't think we mentioned, but still, it's fun.
Yeah, it's there's a couple characters in this film that I felt did really not. I felt like you could eliminate the kid and the lady that kept talking about her perfume or skin. Jonah, yeah. It was
no, you can't because no, you can't. You actually can. Linda, you can't eliminate because she actually heard the 3. Okay, we didn't mention it, but yeah, Linda before she heard 3 different things, and let me tell you, the dog barking. The dogs don't like Ransom, which is what we find out. And so she wakes up at 3 different times, and so we find out who goes up and down the stairs, and stuff like that. And so when the dogs bark, for Martha, they didn't bark, and so that's another clue that it wasn't Martha, who went up there that one time.
Right. There's a lot in this film.
Oh yeah, and then this part right here, when everyone was at the candles, they kept switching who was next to him.
That was cool. Mm-hmm. Because it was interesting. That's the first time you see it, you're like, oh okay. Second time you see it, by the third time you're like, wait a minute, mm-hmm. something happened. Yeah, no, reading through just different little fun facts. Apparently there was one. The house that they were in was in Boston. which is in from like the 1890s, and that was like an older kind of house. But then there were two other locations that were also there for more of the interior kind of part of the house. So,
By the way, can we pause this real quick?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're back. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about the weird cut. But what were we talking about? Yeah, just different fun facts. But no, a lot of this film really does take the old kind of like whodunit kind of films and makes it into its own unique kind of style, and it makes its own way with it. So, out of 10, I don't want to do the cliche of Knives. 10 stage play Knives. Just the weird one that like just retract. Which, okay, let's talk. Hold on, wait, no. Let's talk about that for a second. I don't think that entire Wheel of Knives was all fake because, okay, no, hear me out. There's one really long one and a tiny like handle. There's no way that knife could just retract. So I'm thinking that they're saying like, oh, it's foam. And then there's another one where like it curves down. Well, how does that retract? And it's a wheel, and it's like it's an actual thing. You can see it shiny.
And he picks the one knife.
And he picks the one knife that was like the one that they're like, oh, this is the one. What if he didn't? Then those cops were just standing there. Like, okay, one of the cops ran to the lady. The detective ran to the lady. One of them just stood still holding the recording saying like, oh, I murdered him. So it's like, why is it one knife? Okay, are you ready to rate the film?
Sure.
Okay.
Dang, you're going on the rant this time.
Huh?
I said, you're the one going on the rant this time.
Look, I needed it. There was like a lot of this film I could take, but then that one point was like, I don't know. So let's just say out of 10 coffee cups, the coffee cup that says like my house, my rules, my coffee.
I want to hear yours first.
I'm going to give it a 9. 9 coffee cups.
I give it an 8.5.
Really? Okay. Yeah, I'll give it 9 because I felt like the story was really good. It made you think you knew what was happening in the film the entire time, but then you really didn't until the very end. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen a lot of whodunit films. I've really only seen Clue. But this film, like, compared to others that, like, I know about, this one takes like its own personality with everything. Only thing that I think I would improve upon it, like the music was really good. Only thing I'd improve upon it, there was some characters could go, and then I felt like some acting was a little like a weird hiccup. So I don't know, but overall everyone still did a really good job with it. So yeah, that's why I gave it a 9. Why did you give it 8 coffee cups and like a little half and half in the other one?
It's just like, because there's no replay value for me. It's like, this is a one and done film where it's like, if you want to watch again, I feel like you'd have to watch with someone who doesn't know this film. Mm-hmm. It's like, I feel like for it to be I would have to be able to watch it again, and this is just not one of those films where I can watch it again. It's just one of those films where it's like, it's a one and done, and if like I have someone who hasn't watched it, I can definitely recommend it, and I'll watch it with them, but that's about it.
So kind of like Parasite?
Yeah, except I think I like this movie more than Parasite.
Yeah,
I'm like, maybe it's just because I've watched it more fresh now. It's like I think I prefer this one over Parasite.
Yeah, I like this one more over Parasite just because, like, for me, it's not like I don't like the violent, but I like this one was like just enough where it's like okay. So yeah, overall, pretty good film. We understand why it was nominated. But if I see that commercial one more time that says like Rotten Tomatoes gave it 97, I don't. Is it a good film though?
It is.
And it is, but it's like I just want to know more about the film. So I guess that leaves only one more question to resolve.
What?
You did it!
Did what?
You were the one. You know exactly what you did. Young man.
Listen, Jared.
Explain yourself. I have the clues right here. Right. What do you have to say about this? You know what it is.
Well, yeah, you're talking about how you're...
I'm talking about the receipt.
For Catan?
Yeah. for Catan.
Yeah, I don't know, bro. I did buy 11 terrain hexes, but I didn't buy 4 small frame pieces.
No, but do you know what this means?
What does this mean?
I want you to read. What does the game component say? The 5th one. 9 development cards, 6 night cards, 1 Monopoly card. Anthony.
I'm sorry, just like I had.
Can I just say,
What?
what's 6 plus 1?
I don't know.
7? I believe it's 7, so why does it say there's 9? That's it.
But there's 25 in the other one.
Get in the cop car. We're bringing you in for questioning.
No, you're going to jail.
No!
That's it. We're going for questioning.
Fine.
That's it, boy.
Alright, fine. Well, I'm gonna prove my innocence, and Anthony's I'm gonna be proven guilty. So until then, guys, we'll see you back here with another podcast. On maybe our next podcast, we'll be back in the cartoon genre.
Maybe I will. You won't.
Maybe. Fine. We'll just see. I'll be back. You can't stop me.
See you
Alright, see you guys later.